Hopefully it'll appear here. No. Right, so in the last lesson, I don't know if it's going to work, so yeah, in the last lesson we looked at what farming in India was like and what rice farming was like. So in this lesson we're going to look at the changes that have happened to farming in India. Alright, now we've already looked at the changes in the UK, but we're going to focus on farming in India, and we're going to refer to the Green Revolution that happened in the 1960s. So we need to be able to explain what the main changes are and the advantages and disadvantages of these changes for the people and the farmers of India. So, quick recap then. What are the main characteristics? So it's subsistence farming, where they only grow enough to feed their own family. The fields are very small and they're terraced on hillsides to increase the amount of farming space they've got. They're divided up by boons or walls to ensure there's a correct level of water in each field. Everything is done by hand, so it's very labour intensive. The soils have to be fertile because they're very, very productive. It's such a short growing season. The rice seedlings are started off by grown in nursery beds, then moved to the flooded paddy fields, and the villagers live very, very close to the farm, so they can walk there and work there, and everybody helps each other out. We've seen this image before, but it just very clearly shows you the kind of village right in the centre there with the terraced flooded paddy fields in the background. And then that's what a successful crop yield would look like, and then go and harvest that. So from that of the flooded water to the rice growing is what they're hoping for. So let's skip all that, let's go through all this and let's go to the changes that have been made. So the changes that have been made, alright, there are 5 changes that have been made. Modern technology has been introduced. The use of chemical pesticides and fertilizers. The use of genetically modifying the rice into high yield varieties. The use of irrigation and the use of cash crops to plant between the paddy fields to bring in more money for the farmers. So modern technology, so they can't have tractors that you would and machinery like you would see in a UK farm, so it's been developed specifically for the paddy fields, and the technology was developed in Japan, specifically designed to be used in the small flooded paddy fields. Alright, so such as a transplanter, mini tractors, mechanised ploughs, small enough to fit into the fields but make the job much easier for the people involved. Then we've got chemical pesticides and fertilisers. So these were introduced to kill off pests who would maybe eat some of the rice and stop them being usable. And it would also provide nutrients to help the crops grow, because the more the soil gets used, the more the nutrients are extracted from it to go into the plants, the less the soil has. So these fertilisers would be used to replace the nutrients, but the downside of that is it led to a bit of algae developing on the flooded fields. So pesticides were used to get rid of pests such as midges and flies and rats and stuff that would eat the crop, and fertilisers would improve the condition of the soil but also led to algae bloom on the water. So high yield varieties, and this is genetically modifying, and this is a huge issue worldwide, where what happens is the rice seeds are modified to become better and specifically improve the output from the farm. So these were designed to allow the farmers to grow more food without doing a lot more work. So some of the different ways that this has happened is they have been designed to have a shorter growing season, so you can actually grow 2 harvests in that wet season. You can grow 2 harvests in the wet season so that you're making more rice. Alright. Potentially another way they've been modified is to produce more grains of rice per seed. So one seed gives you more grains of rice. Again, giving you more rice to either use to eat for the family or to sell for money. And then to try and eliminate the use of chemical pesticides, some of them were designed to withstand certain diseases or fungi so that more of your crop would survive, so that you would have more rice, again, to feed your family or to sell and make money, thus improving your quality of life. So irrigation then. Irrigation is a way of artificially watering plants and fields. So particularly if with climate change the water and the rainy season wasn't as regular and you weren't getting as much rain, you could use a supply of water to then fill your paddy fields. Alright? And they would use ditches to move the water from one storage area to the paddy fields. And the last one, cash crops to plant between paddy fields. So what they would do is they would farmers would be allowed to plant trees on the boons or the banks of their fields. This way they could grow fruit so that they could sell or give them a better diet to make them healthier all round. And they would also put fish in the paddy fields, and the fish wouldn't eat the rice, they might eat some of the pests, but it meant that rather than just eating rice and stuff they had farmed, they could have a much more balanced diet in terms of having the fruit and the fish, or any extra fruit that they had, as well as the extra rice, as well as maybe some of the fish, could then be sold at market for more money. So, moving on, you have a table like this in your OneNote that I want you to complete following the slides. So, talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each. So, machinery makes it quicker to farm land and therefore you can grow more food. It's expensive to buy the machinery though, so it's quite difficult in terms of some farmers will not be able to afford it, particularly if it breaks down, it's very expensive to fix. The great idea around HYVs is you get higher yields, so you get more rice, so therefore there is no starvation involved. The downside is it requires a lot more work to make them sustainable in terms of fertilisers and irrigation, which again costs a lot of money. Pesticides and fertilisers, again, protects against pests, helps things grow. The main thing here is that you're getting more crops because less is wasted. The problem is that the algae will grow in the water, which can potentially contaminate your drinking water, so you've got to weigh up the balance. Irrigation, use stored water to grow crops in the dry season. The problem with that is if the soil is in use year round, it doesn't get much time to recover. Think about it in terms of if you had to run a marathon every day, you wouldn't ever get any time to recover. So, cash crops then, families will have another source of income, they'll improve their diet, it will then make them healthier. The downside of that is it does require more work from the farmers. Alright, might be an idea to pause this here and then fill in that table. So, a question you might get in an assessment would be this bottom one here. Explain any recent changes which may have occurred. Alright. And we're not going to go through that because it's too